Recently voted Needham's favorite guilty pleasure, you are watching What's My House Worth, a show that really breaks down the Needham real estate scene. My name is Rob Ticktin. This is Ryan McDonnell. Hi, Ryan.
How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing well. We are with Hawthorne Real Estate. We build homes with Hawthorne Builders. We also provide brokerage services with Hawthorne Properties. We're going to start this show like we start every show, and that's by breaking down the data of the previous month's sales right here in Needham of single-family homes. And of course, the previous month for this episode was May, so let's take a peek at the May sales data. Ryan, anything jump out at you?
Well, we jumped up to 32 single-family homes selling in the month of May. This is all coming from MLS. And the other thing we noticed is that our average list price and our average sales price both came down below that $1 million threshold that we had topped out at last month. And I think that just speaks to a little bit more of a property mix than in the prior month. But the average sales price per square foot shot right back up to $324. We had brought it back down to around $300. Now we're up to $324, which is on the high side.
How about the percentage of lists? I don't think we've seen a 99 up there, have we?
No, definitely not. And I skipped right over that.
Yeah,
how about that?
Breaking news.
Yeah, that is just telling the tale that we've been living through in the past couple months, which is properties going on the market and a lot of them going for over asking. And so that 99% of list is, offsetting some of the ones that maybe have sat for a week or a couple of weeks or a month or so that have come down. But we're going to see as we get through the properties this month, there's been quite a few that have come on the market and gone right off, and a lot of them at or above asking.
Well, we are, of course, right in the middle of a spring market. So with that in mind, we should take a look at the trailing 6 months and what kind of picture it paints as far as the trends. And certainly no surprise to see things are starting to tick upward.
Yep, I mean, it's that curve that we see every spring where we see a lot of from the flurry of activity in April and March and starts to translate into closings come May and June. So you'll see these number of closings increase, and we'll probably see them continue to increase as we get into June.
Right. If last year is any indication, it'll probably bust through that number of
That's
32
right.
for this month. So we know we had 32 sales in the month of May, so it begs the question, how does May 2013 stack up against previous Mays over the past few years? And I would say it seems to be a pretty healthy number when put into that context.
Yep.
Right?
I mean, taking May of 2011 out of it, you're pretty constant at 32 closings this year, 31 last year, and 33 the year before that spike of 37 in 2011. So it's a pretty consistent number. It speaks to a healthy market. I think, as we mentioned, we're going to see a lot of closings in June.
Yeah, a lot of houses under agreement. We'll take a look at those later in the show, but for now we're going to look at each home that's sold in the month of May, single family new construction, or not new construction, excuse me, single family per MLS. And we're going to start at the bottom and kind of work our way up at the lowest sales price that sold in Needham. And in order to find that house, we begin on Central Avenue.
Yep, Central's been a pretty busy street this year, I think. This one's 320 Central Ave, sold for $404. Just 35 days on market, which is a number we actually also skipped over in our intro. The days on market we've seen come down. And again, that also speaks to some of the activity that we're going to talk about during this review. But 35 days on. This one's small. It's 924 square feet, only 2 beds.
That's the third smallest home to sell in Needham this year, by the way.
Yeah, we've had a couple of
small ones
under 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one, it doesn't have a garage. It's in pretty good shape, and it's on a small lot. But for low fours, I mean, I think it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's a busier section of Central, and
Yep.
the fact that it's close to Honeywell there. But like we've said time and time again, when you're talking low fours, slim pickings.
Yeah, you don't have a lot to choose from, and a lot of times you have a lot of competition when you are choosing. So it's I think it's probably a good number.
The next house isn't actually that far from 320 Central Avenue. The next highest selling house over the month of May can be found at 308 Cedar Street. This house is a little bit bigger, but at the end of the day, I guess it really doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, I mean, the house itself was probably incidental to the sale. This was a development deal on a big lot. Do you recall the size of the lot?
It was over 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, okay. So
it might have been 14,000 square feet.
Yeah, I thought it was in the 14s. Yeah. So this one bought by a developer, so we'll look to see what happens maybe in a few months. We might be talking about it again.
Right. That house built in 1926, it will not be seen its 100th birthday. 16 Mills Road, of course. This is one that will not see a new construction home because the lot is so small, just 4,792 square foot lot.
Yeah, it is small, and this one This is interesting. It was on the market for close to a year. And for whatever reason, when we got to the spring of this year, I think we all know why, it just became highly sought after. And it went into a bidding war and went off the market. And then that buyer backed out. And then it went back on the market. And there was another bidding war. So having 2 bidding wars in a row for a house that was on the market for 340 days is somewhat interesting. But this one, it's like Rob said, a small lot. It's sort of close to 128 near the Needham Heights side of town. Good finished space in the basement. Had high ceilings surprisingly for a house this small, and really a lot of size, almost 2,000 square feet, and getting it for the mid 4s.
It's good information, Ryan. It's we talk so much about how listings can get stale, but obviously not the case here.
So we got unstale.
Yeah, it unstalified. 25 Wachusett Road never had the opportunity to get stale because it was on the market for such a short period of time. In fact, 5 days. We've done a couple houses, I feel like, on this street. Mm-hmm. We've spoken a little bit to the uniqueness of this piece of real estate.
Yeah, just the views of all of Needham that you have. You're up on on Birds Hill and you're looking out over the town. It's pretty cool.
Right, great views, but your lot is essentially on a 45-degree angle, if not steeper.
Right, and it's tough parking.
160 Parish Road is next up on our tour through town, and this was a house that you had the opportunity to see and had a pretty strong opinion of, right?
I mean, this is almost like a case study. If you're going to teach a real estate class, this is one that would really challenge an agent because you're dealing with an estate, so it's not the people that live there. The house was in really rough shape, both inside and out, dated pretty much throughout, needs a lot of work.
Well, it's also, and just not to interrupt you, but it's also a 2,400 square foot house on a big lot.
Right, true.
So which can be deceiving and make you maybe think it's worth more than it is. But I apologize.
No, not at all. And it's on a busy road. It's on the corner. It's across from a cemetery. I mean, there's really a lot of variables that are getting thrown at you when it comes time to price this house. And then, went out a little bit high. I think we both sort of recognize that. But you're dealing with some people that don't actually live in the house and I don't believe even live in the area.
Don't know the market extremely well.
And so then they got an offer. They didn't accept it. Maybe they did accept an offer. The buyer wanted a little bit of work. They wouldn't do it. So and then went back on the market and then it gets stale. And then so ultimately you as a seller, what you learn from this is really got to know your market, listen to your agent. And often the first offer is the one you want to work with, even though you might think it's less than you want, because if you let it go, what happens is you end up selling your house for $100,000 less than what you listed it for. So this is a tough deal, but sometimes these happen.
Yeah, and we've talked about being across the street from a cemetery and how to quantify that.
Yeah,
and
it's
that
difficult.
Always certainly factors in. I would imagine it right out of the gate cuts a pretty good chunk of potential buyers out of the mix.
Right.
178 Forest Street was a listing that clearly was priced competitively and clearly had a bidding war and multiple offers based on the fact that it was listed for $559, ended up selling for $585.
Yeah.
I know you had a buyer that went through it, didn't love it, but clearly there were quite a few people who did.
Right. I mean, it's in a market like this. I mean, you have to be able to act quickly, and this house definitely went for above its value. But that's who's to decide. I mean, the market spoke, and 585 is where it closed. One thing I liked about this listing, and it's a good best practice for agents, is when you have something in the house that isn't working or is defective, if you put it on there as a disclosure, so the buyers know going in that anyone who reads the listing sheet, for instance, here you have a picture window that didn't open. And you had a built-in wall AC unit that didn't work.
Yep.
So you put that on there, and then it's off the table. Like you're no longer dealing with that as far as negotiating, or it's tough for someone to come back and say, hey, we want to take $1,000 off because the picture window won't open, when you knew that going in when you made your offer.
Right. We had a listing, I want to say the last month or two, that was a similar situation where we talked about that, how you take it out of the table, and it's a pretty strategical, tactical move.
I like that I mean, it's the right thing to do, first of all. I mean, if something doesn't work, disclose it, but it also just removes it from the negotiation, which I think is good. So it probably didn't matter here because it obviously went for way over asking.
Right. So it sold for $585. Same house sold for $562,000 back in 2003. Similar with 55 High Street in the sense that there's a previous sale to measure it up against. It sold for $612. It also sold just 3 years ago in 2010 for $537, and seemingly was in similar condition. They just kept it up really well because when it sold, in 2010, the house was in great shape. So this is I would say the sellers did pretty well with this one.
Agreed. I mean, this is all part of this frenzy that we're seeing in this price point and these 5s and 6s. I mean, it's remarkable that there's such demand for these homes, and it really speaks to people wanting to come to Needham, and the lower end of the Needham market is just getting higher and higher.
Yeah, I mean, you talk 1,500 square feet, 3 beds, 2 baths, and in really good condition.
I'm thinking 5s.
I mean, well, yeah, but now
Not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's 6s now, just because there isn't any of it,
Right.
and everybody wants it. 19 Mount Vernon Ave is another house that kind of falls into that sweet spot. When this one came on the market, I had a feeling it would go under quickly. It did. I was surprised that it was $24,000 under list, but at the end of the day, it's still $635 for a cape on a small lot.
Right. I mean, it's just another house that just fits the mold of where the huge just bulk of demand is in this town right now.
Yeah, I mean, the house was perfect in every way. 59 Richdale Road. There was something I wanted to say that jumped out about the next listing, 59 Richdale Road. I can't really remember. Let's take a. Oh, hello. There it is.
There it is.
Ryan, you got something you want to say? Oh, look at this, obviously. So something tells me that this is the deal of the month for the, let me guess, the seller?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
all right,
Shockingly
okay.
enough.
Yeah, wow.
It is. And this is a cape on a nice street in the Mitchell School District. It's on a 14,000 square foot lot, but don't be deceived because that lot is a steady slope upward in the back, and it's even, it's elevated off the street, so it really kind of plays to be about like maybe a 9 or a 10,000 square foot lot.
Yep.
But the house needs everything. I mean, it was dated from the original
It was clean,
construction, very clean, very well kept. The person who lived there maintained it well.
Yep.
But there's a difference between maintenance and updates, and this house needs absolutely everything. So it stands to me. It shocks me a little bit that a 1,600 square foot cape that needs $100,000+ of work is selling for $643. Because I look at that and I say, all right, if I buy that at $643. And I put in that $100,000 or so.
Right.
What is a 1,600 square foot cape that's been updated worth?
With 1.5 baths.
With 1.5 baths on it's still just to me the numbers don't work, and I just think that there's just such a rush to buy homes that people need to really be careful that they're not just getting caught up in it.
Right, but I think you're thinking about what it's worth after you do all that work when you have people buying it who don't care what it's worth.
I guess.
When it comes time to sell, because for them it's they'll be in the house for the rest of their lives, or they're not thinking of it in terms of an investment, but they will be if for whatever reason they decide they have to sell the house. 115 Lexington Avenue, kind of similar in the sense that it's a same type of price point in a good location. This one was not quite as clean and meticulous as 59 Richdale, but and bigger. Gas in the street too, which is always a nice.
Yeah, I mean,
perk.
this is a larger house, similar conditions, it's selling for $650, and it's a colonial. I mean, this I think makes a little bit more sense than the Cape on Richdale.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that $600,000. Something tells me when it comes time for the year-end spectacular, there's going to be a lot of talk about the $600,000 price range and what's changed over the last few
Actually,
years.
you're getting me excited for the year-end spectacular.
That's what I'm here for, Ryan.
That's good.
I'm getting excited to talk about 136 Tudor Road, a house. Once again, lots of demand for a house in a good location with a decent-sized lot. We land sale is not confirmed, folks.
No, it isn't.
Please, when you go, on the website and print out the slides, you want to make sure you circle this one, as we're not 100% sure. Either way, seems to be whether it's a builder or a homeowner paying for this house, mid-6s seems to be.
Yeah, there were definitely builders involved in the bidding on it, but I don't know if ultimately that's who bought it.
20 Brentwood Circle is a kind of a walk-to-town location, although most people don't really think of that side of Highland
Right,
Ave as,
you can
as
still
an
walk.
in-town location, but that's in town, I would call it. 3 beds, or 4 beds, 2.5 baths, 2-car attached garage. Hillside School seems to have a lot of things going for it, this house. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, including its listing as a colonial, but it's actually a multi. So just be, always read the fine print, folks.
Good catch, Ryan. That's a little tidbit of information you have for this listing. I know you have a lot more meaty information for our next listing. That's 61 Francis Street. You had some of your people make some phone calls just to kind of get your arms around this listing. Ryan, what'd you find out?
It's just another one where the sale price is significantly higher than the list price, and I just was curious as to what went down, and there was like as expected multiple offers, over 10 offers. The the buyer ended up going for it because they love the fact that it abutted conservation. It's on a quiet dead-end street.
Yep.
You've got behind you the town forest. I mean, it's really a cool property. And it just goes to show when in this market, if you want something and you've been maybe outbid 3 times on other houses and you're tired of it and you find something you know you might have to spend a little bit over market value, and as long as you're comfortable doing that, then you have to do what it takes to get it done, I guess.
All right. 171 Standish Road is next up. This is a house in the neighborhood on Great Plain, right near Wellesley Newman School District. This is a house that had a boatload of price changes. I mean, a boatload. It sold for $673 in 2008. This time around sells for $770, talking about a multi-level, but a big one.
Yep.
A lot of square footage there.
Yeah, it's close to what, 2,600 square feet.
Yeah.
1,684 of it is on the main level. But, a nice little neighborhood, and it came out a little high, but, the market corrects.
We've talked about case studies a little bit in previous listings, and you could argue that 223 High Rock is some interesting information. You can kind of peel back the onion on that listing a little bit, insofar as it's a house that sold back in a couple years ago for $500,000, and then a developer bought it, put clearly a lot of money into it, because that was a Cape and now it's a Colonial. I mean,
Right.
they went up with it, and so if they bought it for $5, they sold it for $770. Something tells me they probably did not hit a home run.
Maybe an infield single.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Right.
Fielder's choice?
I think a fielder's choice, I would equate that to what, like break even?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, me too.
There's not a lot of room there, I guess is what we're getting at.
Yes, well, it was originally priced in the $849.
Right, so that's a classic case of, oh my gosh, I'm into it for this, and I got to price it for this, but that price had nothing to do with the market.
Right, and so as a result, I have to stress about it for 237 days while I wait for it to sell.
Right.
41 LaSalle Road is a house that you and I both had the pleasure of viewing on the broker tour. It was a lot of buzz around this one due to its location.
And the time. The timing couldn't have been better for this house.
And the size of the lot. It had a lot going for it. I don't think either one of us had our socks knocked off when we walked through the inside. Right?
No, it had potential, but I mean, I think if you're going to buy this house, you're buying it for the lot size and the location with every intent on doing something to it.
Right, and there was never probably another day leading up to that day that somebody would have paid $795 for it. So that's a great number.
This house goes on the market a year ago in January, and it's probably selling in maybe it's $7.
But it does have a lot going for it.
Yeah.
It needed certainly a lot of work on the exterior, but a nice house. 144 High Rock Street. This is another High Rock listing that had a lot of kind of action. It was sold for $695 in 2010. It was put on the market for $1,040,000 in 2011, and here we are 2 years later. It sold for $815,000. I'm sure a lot of people recognize that house as it's on a pretty popular intersection.
I buy it a lot.
101 St. Mary Street is new construction. How about that, Ryan?
For
new
under $1 million.
construction for under $900.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see that every day.
No, you don't. You've seen it today, though.
Yeah, and you do. If you do see it, it's often on St. Mary Street. I feel like. I think we've seen this before.
Yeah, that little pocket of streets over there you can get some good deals, good value.
Off Central Ave, right near near.
And it's turning. I mean, the neighborhood is evolving over there. So you're getting some houses that some people have been putting some work into, and who knows? In a couple of years, we could be talking about that as the new Ladder Street.
Right, with the exception of it's probably a little noisy because
it's
of the
a louder
proximity
Ladder Street.
Right, a louder street.
Right.
123 Beaufort Ave is. Don't want to talk about good locations. That's a good spot right across the street from Perry Park.
Yep.
We both saw this house as well and walked out of there. Actually, I wasn't so sure this thing was going to fly off the shelf. Why, Ryan? What about it did I not love at $899?
Probably that there are only 3 bedrooms.
Bingo.
Yeah. I mean, 3 bedrooms is, we always talk about that jump from 3 to 4. It's a significant jump usually because it separates different types of buyers, those with multiple kids and those without. And in this one, for a 3-bedroom, it's actually the 5th highest sale for a 3-bedroom in Needham in the last 3 years.
Oh, all right. Good piece of information, Ryan.
So it's up there.
Good work. Somebody's done their homework this month.
That's right.
115 Winding River Road is next up, and we're just talking about the drawbacks of a 3-bed. Here we have a 2-bed that sells for $949. Probably had a little bit to do with the fact that it's on an acre plus of land.
Yeah.
266 Rosemary Street is next up. This is a house that had quote-unquote views you have to see because it was on
Rosemary Pond.
Rosemary Pond. Although I wonder what the views are like when they drain it. How often is that pond drained?
I don't know, but it's at least once a year, I think.
At least.
At least.
Yeah.
I mean, the ducks and the geese are sitting there just wondering what's going on.
Yeah,
the water's gone. I mean, but they're sitting out on your roof deck or your back deck looking at it. They can probably have some good insight as to what goes on over there.
Do we know if is there any smell associated with draining a lake?
I don't know. We'll have to find out.
Yeah, maybe we can call the people at 266 Rosemary Street.
I wonder if they asked that question before they dropped $973,000.
I mean, if they're from out of town and they have an out-of-town agent, it probably never even crosses their mind it gets drained, right?
Maybe not.
But we've both seen it, right? It
Yes.
happens. Okay.
Yeah, no, I've seen it.
Just want to make sure I wasn't
Okay.
dreaming it. 43 Crestview Road was a house that was completely renovated. We saw it. I mean, it was renovated.
Yeah, I'd be, the little liberal with the use of the word completely.
Yes. What if it said incompletely renovated?
Right, or sort of renovated, or
Partially?
You got some stuff done over there, but you're not quite finished. I think when you're moving in there, it's a good deal if you're looking at that part of town. It's a nice lot. It's not on South Street, but it's in that sort of neighborhood. It's nice.
But you said good deal, which brings me to our next listing. This one, I wouldn't necessarily call the next listing a good deal on 25 Thurston Lane. What I would call the listing is my deal of the month.
That's quite a build-up right there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, let's hear it. What's so good about 25 Thurston Lane, Rob?
Listen, some people research the facts about the listings. Other people research how they want to lead into their deal of the month. I saw 25 Thurston Lane. I mean, it wasn't a new construction ground up. It was, for the most part, an expansion, renovation. I mean, it felt like new construction when you were in it. Sometimes we go through these broker tours on Thursdays where we see all these houses, and you walk out of the houses and you say, that one's going to fly off the shelf. And sometimes you walk out saying, that one's going to sit for a while.
Overpriced.
Right. So this was one where I walked out and thought, they're going to have no problem selling this. It was on a bigger lot, 12,000 square feet, a really good location. It felt like new construction. And you just don't have new construction in Broadmeadow for less than $1.2 million. And so it didn't surprise me to see that it kind of flew off the shelf. I thought the finishes were really nice, and it's on a cul-de-sac.
Yep.
So I liked it. And it's the deal of the month for the
buyer.
For the buyer, correct. 61 Jarvis Circle is kind of paving new ground, or it's kind of fighting for Jarvis as it creates a new benchmark for what new construction can get on this street.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really would like this listing and this deal if it didn't start out at 1445. Because when we saw, because it's amazing how your mind changes. When we saw this house, it was on at 1445, and I walked out of there going, geez, that house is in trouble. But if this thing were listed in the 1.2s where it should have been, we would have been like, great listing, great house, everything was great, nicely built, nicely finished, 1.2, boom, done, neat. But it wasn't.
Prior to that house, the most expensive house to sell on Jarvis was 126 Jarvis Circle. That sold for $1.125 million. 51 Mark Tree, now we're definitely have worked our way into the new construction homes. 51 Mark Tree Road, new construction, a bigger lot, 14,000 plus. It did have a reading/computer nook. Ryan, thoughts on the word nook?
I'm actually a big fan of the word nook. We use it a lot in the breakfast nook area. That's where you generally see your nook, but I like it. And nook just conjures up comfort.
If you don't use the word nook, what word do you use?
I really don't know. That's why I use nook so often.
Right. There's no other way.
But you say nook and you know exactly what the person's talking about. It's not some big open room. It's a little area that you can just kind of cozy up to.
Something about it though just rubs me the wrong way. 95 Falcon Street went on for 1.349 in 2012. It came off the market. It came back on for 1.295. And it sold for 1.253. That's a lot of numbers in a short period of time.
Yeah, good finished basement at this one. I really like that one.
66 Briarwood Circle off of Honeywell is our next listing. This is located on a cul-de-sac. Is it me, or does it seem like every month we're talking about a house on Briarwood?
Yeah, there's been a decent amount of, there's the one that sold a month or two ago that's going to be torn down.
Okay, there's one.
And then there's this one, that's two.
Yeah.
And there's new construction on this street. It's kind of, it's off on its own. It's that little offset cul-de-sac off of Honeywell. So I think this house is a good value, but it reflects the location.
The builder paid $550,000 for that lot. 80 Hillcrest Road sold for pretty quickly for 1.299. This is not the house. That's a picture of a similar house. We are safe to assume that the house on 80 Hillcrest was finished. 48 days on market. Did you get a chance to see anything?
No,
with this
I mean,
house?
this one sold during construction, and
Right.
one that really, for all intents and purposes, didn't go on the market as a finished house. So you just have to speculate, as this builder did when he bought the lot.
Right. Any speculations based on what you see here?
Well, as you mentioned, this isn't the house that was actually done, but you're looking at just the stats. I mean, 4,200 square feet for 1.3. Hillcrest is a nice road. It's a small lot, though. It's only I think it's under 9,000 square foot.
Yes,
lot.
you are. I believe you're correct.
So that speaks to really the limitations of the house and maybe why it went for under 1.3.
All right, that's the nugget I was looking for, although I didn't know it at the time. 354 Brookline Street. We've done a couple new construction on Brookline we've talked about over the past few months. This is one that was on the market for quite a while. Ended up selling well below original list.
Yeah, kind of a funky layout. I mean, I remember walking out of there, or walking up to the second floor, and being very confused by how you got to the master bedroom. There was a kind of a large room, almost a laundry room that was sort of en suite to the master bedroom, which you don't typically see in new construction, and it was huge. So it's sort of an odd layout. I don't know. There was something about it that just seemed kind of against the grain.
I didn't see the house. I saw the pictures, the kitchens, the little bit of the darker cabinets, and you couldn't really tell from the backsplash. It didn't seem to be the focal point of the house, the kitchen, other than the fact that it had a triple oven, which you don't see very often.
Yeah.
But, you know,
And the 3-car garages.
I like the 3-car garage. You know that.
I added an S on it for some reason. I said 3-car garages. I don't know why.
Well, maybe there was 2 3-car garages. No, there's just one. There's just one 3-car garage.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a 2-car garage and a separate garage right next to it.
That's true.
12 Edward L. Road is a house that we both saw. I know you know a little bit about this street as well, Ryan. There's been a little bit of activity on there. This is a big lot. That was a nice house.
Yeah, I liked it too. I mean, looking at my notes this morning, I had that exact phrase. I said, "Nice house." It was
2 sets of stairs
Yes,
going up.
I was gonna say I love the double staircase.
I
but
do too.
The problem with it is it just takes up so much room. So if you're not having this huge sprawling footprint, you give up so much space with the double staircase. But I really, really like the double staircase. They also did the 9-foot ceilings in the basement. So then if you were to go to finish it, you've got plenty of ceiling height down there. But you know, it sold for over 1.5. I think they could have maybe gotten a little bit more if they would have gone the extra mile on some of the other finishes. You know, the framed shower doors, like things like that. You know, the overlay cabinets. I mean, if they spend a little bit more money on those finishes, you start to creep up into that higher 1.4 range.
Happy 50th birthday to 138 Richardson Drive. Not every house in this area of the sales is a new construction. This one's 50 years old, sold for 1,435. Big house, Ryan, a lot of square feet.
Yeah, and I think it was on the market in the 1.5s, and then it didn't sell, and now it came back in the 1.4s. And again, we talked about it earlier. Your frame of mind just changes when the pricing is right, and the house looked a lot better. That master suite on the 3rd floor looked a lot nicer when it was priced right.
And Richardson, that's a nice street too.
Sure.
It's got a lot of charm, kind of you got an older feel. You feel like you're traveling back in time a few decades when you're on that street because there's no new construction.
No, there's not. There's just nice older homes that have been taken care of. Yeah.
Nice older homes.
Yeah.
Correct. 84 Beard Way. We almost had our second $2 million plus home to sell in Needham for 2013, but we didn't quite get there with this one, but we came just about as close as you can get.
Yeah, I mean, the basement was the highlight of this house. 1,200 square foot of bright, sunny, finished walkout basement. The rest of it, quite honestly, it was a house built in 2005. I think you're buying this house because of its size and its basement and its location.
All right, well, that gets it. All 32. Bang. Ryan, if
Done.
people want to get a hold of us, can you tell everybody how they could do that, please?
Sure, Rob. They can call us anytime. It's 781-707-6564. They can also send us an email at rob.ryan@hawthornere.com.
Great, and before we sign off, we, of course, would like to take a peek at the market snapshot as we go through the month of May and head into June, what it's shaping up to look like, and anything
I would say saddle up because we're going to have a lot of closings in June. If what's under agreement is any indication, we should have some decent amount of closings. We still have that outlayer, the 10 million square foot.
We need to get that
or
one.
$10 million lot that's just basically throwing all of our numbers into the gutter.
Can you just buy that already so we don't have to talk about it anymore?
The days on market is 75 days. That's coming down. We had 80 this month. I think it's going to be something similar next month. And that price per square foot should probably be in the low 3s.
What do you think about that average list price? It continues to climb.
It's too high. I mean, we.
But is it permanently too high?
No, I think it's going to correct. I really do. I think this market is going to probably slow down a little bit as we get into the summer. you're going to not see as much inventory coming on, and it will have a little bit of a break to take a breath.
Yeah, and that average
'Cause I'm
list
exhausted.
that average list price per square foot getting up there too. That does it for this month's installment of What's My House Worth. Thanks for joining us. We will see you again very soon.
Keep watching.